This week on Induction Noise.
But it was also a straight pipe. So I don't know why anyone in their right mind would have bought it. And then the guy that bought it 2 weeks later got shipped overseas for 2 years. It's just sitting in a garage somewhere.
Serious?
My poor
They shipped
Samantha.
him overseas just for having a straight pipe.
Her name was Samantha because she was curvy as anything.
Oh, yes, that is.
Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome back to Induction Noise. With me, as always, is Neil.
Good evening.
We have Andre.
Hello.
We have this guy that I'm not currently talking to because he drove our Supra for the first time without me there.
Hello,
So
and
can
it was
someone
brilliant.
please tell Niku that he's here too. And then our guest this evening is someone that we have been wanting to get on the show pretty much since day one, and for various scheduling reasons and the fact that he's like some famous international race driver or something, it just hasn't happened yet. But now we've kind of invaded his house.
With no pizza.
With no pizza. We brought no wine. We didn't bring flowers.
Taking
nothing.
my beer.
We've taken his beer, and we've just invaded his space to come and talk to him and basically find out how we can be racing drivers.
Get your notebooks out.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, guys,
Write that down.
welcome Andrew Rackstraw.
Hello.
Hey.
Our tame racing driver.
Our tame racing driver. So you are currently racing in the UK. You're racing here as well, aren't you?
No, I had to stop, unfortunately. But when I'm back, so now I was back from November and I leave next week, so that will be 19th of Feb. I'll do some karting, some Formula Volkswagen, which is the old spec F3, but no racing. I can't get injured before the main racing starts.
That would suck.
That would suck.
So what are you racing on Mud Island?
2025.
In 2025, that's weird to say.
It is.
I can't believe
crazy,
it's
eh?
2025 already. But so I'm racing Porsche Cup in the Great Britain series. So it's super competitive, something I've always dreamt of because of the whole Toka package. As a young boy watching the famous touring car drivers smashing each other off the track.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm on those packages getting smacked.
Getting
off the
smashed
track.
off the
I was going to say, getting absolutely annihilated.
Is it
off
as
the
much fun as it looks getting smashed off the track?
I've got to be
promise
honest.
you not.
I watched a couple of your early races when you started racing in the Porsche Cup, and
Oh no.
there does seem to be quite a lot of bullying of the new kid. And I don't know if that's just because you were overly polite and you weren't quite sure how much of the car you're allowed to damage, or whether these guys just thought, man,
The competitors don't seem to mind how much they damage.
No, and that's the thing. In South Africa, it's all very, I want to say, money conscious, and because it's so small, racing everywhere in the world is quite small and everyone knows each other, but especially South Africa. I think if you punt somebody in South Africa, that person will remember you for the rest of their life.
It's frowned upon
It's frowned
because you'll change their financial future.
Exactly. The inheritance just goes down the drain.
recover from
There, my second kid isn't going to university.
No, that's it. Just wait till you get sent the invoice of the car. That's happened before. But in England, it's part of the culture. I mean, I went to watch a karting race of these 6-year-olds just in England, and they were taking each other out from that age. I think it's a different breed and mentality. I think it's the weather that causes a bit of that confusion. But no, it's definitely a completely different ball game.
So other than Porsche Cup, you're also racing little spider-looking things.
They are spider-looking things.
They are scary-looking things.
They are.
I mean, they look properly flimsy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you don't have to tell me that.
Flimsy but fast.
When you're heading towards a barrier and there's no halo and there's not much protecting you, and you look around and you kind of say, oh no, this can
It basically looks like a tube of toothpaste with a couple of wheels bolted to it.
fast though. I mean,
It's
back
quick.
in the day, they were one of the fastest things, faster than cars or anything.
Yeah.
But so that's what you're talking about, Formula Ford, which has the Kent engine, and I've told you guys that it doesn't have a rev limiter, so it's always your balls are in your football because every time you go out, you can blow an engine, which costs about £10,000.
Rather
And
easy
then
to
and then
learn.
manual as well.
Manual,
So,
so
as well.
4-speed, but straight cut gearbox. So
Is it also dogleg like my car?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it is just
I wonder, does Andrew also scratch second, third, fourth down the straight?
And fifth.
You
and
probably
fifth.
do. And fifth,
I scratch fifth as
Probably
well.
scratch-
See, I'm going to say no, but we often, whenever I come back in the garage, they log on to the computer. That's the terrible thing about today. They can just log on and tell which gears you have missed, and then all of a sudden you're revving. Rev limiter should be about 7, you have rev to about 9, and you get a proper chatting to. So that happens at least once a session.
You see, in the old days when Formula Ford started, in the 70s and when those cars were those design cars were kind of new, then you would go back to the pits and just say, I don't know what happened,
Oh, exactly. You can get away with murder.
I just heard a pop and then the engine was gone.
But I think their hearing was better back then.
That's true.
I think they could hear you just
Is
missing
the,
a
Must have been a plane.
the new Formula, is that the ones with a little bit of error on them, or is that the ones without?
absolutely
No,
no.
it's
No.
the same
Oh,
as
so
the cars that
that's
were in the
how it
80s.
So where does
Exactly
it
the
go? Is
same.
that just like is that a South African thing where we did to like modify it? Because some of the Formula Fords here.
No, but that's a
That-
Formula
I-
Ford. That's F1600.
Oh, okay. So so there's levels to. So that's Formula 1600.
Yes.
Formula Ford is the original sort of.
Yeah.
As you said, Spider without any.
That's
Yeah.
it. But still loved. I mean, those races, it's followed like a cult, and the drivers in there, unfortunately, because it's a bit cheaper than most racing you can do, but the drivers in there are incredibly talented. I mean, at Walter Hayes, there's 160, 70 entries still, which is incredible. I love it.
And you did an amazing race at Silverstone last year, right? Like at
That
the
was
Formula
awesome.
Ford Festival, at the festival event, right? When you came back from the back of the grid, finished on the
That
podium.
was
Walter
that
Hayes.
was 2 years ago.
it?
I
Okay.
went from the back to third, and then
That's
more
insane.
embarrassingly, this year I started second and finished second. Which
I mean, that's-
how could you come from the back of the grid to
Yeah.
third?
I mean, that's terrible. I mean, I'm sorry, guests. Listeners, I have to apologize for this man's bad, results. That he got a second place in an international
Probably the
festival.
most one of the
So
most competitive fields.
where did you finish your race, Andre? I just
Second in my class. After 15 years absence of the
Good man. You see, that's more impressive. That's what we should be promoting.
I did come from the back as well, of my class.
You see,
class.
I have to add that I'm only in this class because I'm too slow to be in the actual class where the car is supposed to race.
I've actually got a very important question for Andrew. What the hell do you do with a GoPro on those stuff? Or do you just wreck them every race? Because Andre wrecked both my GoPros in that race.
I broke them both.
where did you put the GoPros?
It was on the Nardini.
Kind of,
In the wheel
One,
arch.
one was facing forward. No, one was facing forward. One was facing backwards. One was on the little hoop thing,
Yeah.
and the other one was on the side, I think.
Yeah.
But I was basically under your people. There was a 350Z.
Your people.
Your people, yeah. There
So
was
it's 350.
there was
exactly.
a 350Z turbo that I was dicing the whole time with 300 kilowatts.
And you gave him a punt.
No, I was basically, because he's got all this power on the straights, like he leaves me back on the straights. And in the corners, I literally have to drive under his bumper. And I think that's the problem. I was getting all the stones from under him. So,
Rookie. You see.
So
Yeah.
both GoPros was wrecked. That's one of them, but I replaced the lens in in that time span. But yeah, I was,
if you
I
can
was
see
shocked.
this is on a fixed GoPro.
See, I've actually deviated from GoPros.
Okay.
I mean, they still use them, but so now what I post on my social media, it's called an Insta 360.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
And
yes.
I picked up one, I've never heard of them, but I saw one on Facebook Marketplace when I was in England. And there's such a small little GoPro that just, mount to your helmet, which is perfect for what I need.
Okay.
And I bought it, I think, for £200, which you can't find here. They're
they're
ridiculously
ridiculous.
expensive.
Plus,
I
you
like
can't
everything.
you can't
it's
mount
insane.
like
We're not allowed to
We're not
mount on your
allowed to mount
They're
anything
not.
in South Africa on a helmet.
Yeah.
But also overseas, in like Formula Ford, I had to just cover my helmet and then go up to circuit.
okay.
But that we're not going to publish.
No, we can edit that out.
We'll cut that bit. It's fine.
Yeah, we're not
You,
going to
you
cut
actually
it.
get a camera that you put inside the helmet.
There
now.
is that.
I don't know how intrusive it is for
But
your
times
vision.
the GoPro price probably by like 5.
yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's quite cheap, yeah.
Hi guys, just a quick shout out to our sponsors for this week. It's Master Panelbeaters. Stephen at Master Panelbeaters is an absolute magician. He's a proper car guy, so when you take your car there for any work to be done, you can rest assured that it's going to be done to a car guy's standard. They're also approved by a whole bunch of major manufacturers. They are on the panels for most major insurance companies, so you'll never have problems or issues dealing with them regardless of what you drive or what has happened to your car. So if you need anything done to your car, big or small jobs, take it to Stephen and his team at Master Panelbeaters. They will get it fixed up and your car will be as good as new. Now back to the episode.
I wanted, like, we're going to just jump in with a whole bunch of questions because on the way I thought about so many questions I want to ask you.
We're like
Because
sponges.
everything,
We are rookie race drivers, so we want to learn from the best.
because there's so much stuff, like, exactly because of that, like, of the limited time we've spent, or at least I've spent on track. I wanted to ask you about the transition between you're driving Formula Ford, then you jump into Carrera Porsche Cup, basically. For me, like, the only time where I've experienced that is the limited time I've spent time with my road car from the kart, and there is it for me. It feels like, you know, you go jump from the kart and probably the Formula Ford that is probably very close to a kart the way it feels, right?
Yeah.
You're very connected, but then you jump into a sort of like a GT car. Of course, that's a race car, but is there a big jump between the two, and how do you adjust between the two from karting to that?
So that's actually interesting because my team and driver coach overseas, we're actually, I don't think, going to be doing Formula 4 during the Porsche Cup season because, like you just mentioned, it is such a jump. So the Formula Ford, you can get away with manhandling the thing. I mean, it weighs about 500 kilograms, doesn't have a lot of power, but you're always keeping it on the rear end so it doesn't bog and
it moves around a
and
lot.
it moves around an insanely amount. But with the Porsche Cup car, it's so heavy and you can feel
And
all
it's got
that
power.
Exactly.
So it's the opposite.
Exactly, completely. So I mean, the driving style is different in the Cup car. If you have a slide or if you're a bit too aggressive, the rears will cook or the fronts will cook, or you can lock up a front just by looking at the car wrong. So you kind of have to do a whole ritual with the car before you get in.
Just to give it a bit of stroke,
exactly, and it will still bite you in the ass. But no, completely different. So this year, because I'm trying to win the championship, I can't leave any stone unturned, and I don't want to look back at the championship and say maybe it was because of Formula Ford. So I'm having.
So it's that different, basically, that you need
so
to.
different.
And driver coaching is always for me interesting when, like, a professional like yourself talks about driver coaching, because a lot of the time
Doesn't feel like to us like you need coaching.
It's like a, you know, I mean, I've like, what do we do for the guys that drive it? I mean, we've got the micro on the data. You look at on the micro for a bit of karting, or when you do
Got
some.
the micro, I never look at the data.
And let's say when someone else has got a laptop at the tracker, you can look at the data, or, you know, online you look at Garage 61. But I always felt like, is this cheating? You know, should I not be naturally talented? You know, why do I look at someone else's data? Is that so? But that's a normal part, right? For when a driver coach talks to you, like, what do they teach you? Does he really go into the details of, you know, on the throttle, off the throttle? Is it like, you know, full on data analysis that you do with him, or what does the typical session like that look like?
So, like you said, it feels like cheating. I think back in the day when you didn't have these computers, it was the
If one
most...
person had a computer, it would kind of feel like cheating.
Exactly.
Because no one else has access to that.
But because everybody has access to insane amounts of just data and analysis, but also people study this now. So it's a whole job. So now when I go overseas, I'll have a driver coach. It's also just nice when you come in from a session, you're so hot-headed. And I mean, if you aren't, it comes into more of effect of when you aren't fast, you're already anxious and confused of why not. And you can't within yourself almost look at it and say from a...
Objectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then to have someone looking at it from a different point of view and different eyes saying, actually, maybe why don't we try this setup? Or why don't you try this next time you're out on circuit? But I mean, you have a tire analysis, and you have all these documents, and it's intense. So everything you can think of the car, everything has a engineer that you have to talk to understand, to give your feedback. It's all just because it's so professional nowadays. It's like,
and I think the thing is also, it's not, professional drivers are everybody's good. The guys you're racing against, it's not like one of the guys absolutely useless and will be like 5 seconds slower than everybody else.
No.
Given the exact same opportunities, equipment, it's very close. You're talking about split seconds. You're talking about maybe a second from the slowest to fastest guys or whatever, but just because the guy's new or something. So, it's not like in the old days. There's not really slow people around.
no. And like you said,
It's fractions, and if you don't use the data, you're going to be 0.2 off,
Exactly.
and then somebody else is going to be ahead.
which is so little. I mean, that's faster than a blink of an eye. But when you're talking about, our qualifying, most of the time, the top 10 are split by, at some tracks, even like Silverstone, we don't do the full circuit, but are split by 0.1.
What?
That
It's
is mental.
top 10. So now you're looking at 0.03, 0.02. So, like into a corner.
Hundredths of a second.
Hundredths of a second, which is just mind-boggling. So you have to be such a perfectionist. And obviously, with that, everything has to be perfect. The
And
team
consistency. You have to do it every lap. And
That's it.
But that's kind of a lot more fun than some of the series in South Africa is checkbook racing. It makes it so much more
right.
enjoyable, I think, as a driver because, okay, obviously you want to win or whatever, but you also want to, it's the love of the sport. You don't want to be behind because that team had £1 million more to spend or whatever.
No, that's right.
It's kind of, you want to be the driver that beat him. So that also at least makes it awesome, in my opinion.
one makes series always the best way to, see who the good drivers are.
Agreed.
Because you're measuring yourself against the drivers.
Agreed.
It's not the car, it's the drivers.
There's no BOP. All the cars are the same. And especially Porsche do everything properly. No matter what they do.
Yeah.
I'm very biased. I love
The Germans.
the German. Yeah, it's the
Gonna
Germans.
be-
That's it.
Germans.
So
No,
Just
it is,
watch out with your
it is,
head.
it is
Watch
not.
your head.
Yeah,
Just in your
don't
Elon.
do an Elon
Yeah.
Musk. I was gonna say.
yeah, I'll keep my hands like that. It's not in the rules.
exactly.
It's
From my heart to yours.
I really feel you guys.
Yeah, no, but the
Let's
Germans.
just do the T-Rex hands for now.
So all those cars are prepped by Porsche, and you get them. The teams probably get them directly from Porsche. And is there anything other than setup that you guys change, or is it you take it as is?
No, it is so. Even with setup, there's quite a lot that you can't do to the car.
Parameters that you can.
Exactly. So it like you said about South Africa, if you wanted to engine swap your car to get a bit more horsepower to find a bit of lap time. In some series are not like that.
Yeah.
But you can, and then you can find half a second. With us, it's like you can't do that.
can't
So it
do
has
that.
to be within yourself. So now what makes it interesting is because there's very little you can actually do to the car, the team and yourself have to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of thinking about not loopholes, but ways in which you can
Use
have
all the
best-
data and
Exactly.
all the possible
Improve
parameters
what
to get
you've
it.
got and use it to its fullest.
Exactly.
Because everyone else is doing that. If you're going to be on the beach for 4 hours and somebody else is doing it all the time,
You're
they're going to
never
have an
gonna
edge.
win. Exactly.
I
So-
can't.
Oh, sorry.
And then, another thing that I always immediately remember now, there's a Porsche Cup class at the Nürburgring where you share also with the GT3s. Because I always thought, Porsche Cup might be a nice jump to GTE, right? Which is also no ABS. Now you've got Porsche Cup, and then you've driven some GT3 cars as well, where I guess you're stomping on the brake in the Porsche Cup. You're kind of like, I guess, trail braking to get the nose to turn in. That jump from there again, or do you think is it a much easier transition from like a Cup car to a proper GT3 car than from the Porsche Cup car from the little spiders or the Porsche basically?
So you must remember the Porsche Cup series. The whole idea behind it is it's very smart. Lamborghini do the same with Super Trofeo, where that manufacturer, that's their pool of choosing their next factory drivers.
Okay.
And because they have
Feeder series.
it's
for their-
exactly.
Okay.
So people that shine in their series, so they have to make the car not easy, and that's what it is. It is one of the
It's
most
to get the
hard-
best drivers to come to
the
the front.
front. So and also remember the GT3 cars, the whole purpose is they're built for gentleman drivers. They have ABS, they have traction control. I mean, they have traction control,
It's supposed to
longitude,
be easier to
latitude.
drive.
Exactly,
Okay.
because of the gentleman drivers. So the jump from Porsche Cup to GT3, of course, when you're talking about the last few tenths of finding any series is going to be hard, but just in terms of getting in a car and being quick, the GT3s
Much easier.
are much easier.
Okay.
So
Because there's no gentleman drivers driving a Porsche Cup.
So they're all SM series, and they have
Okay.
ABS.
Okay.
But they're obviously not going to be doing it to make a career.
Yeah.
They're just wanting to have
And
some
they
fun.
probably struggle quite a bit and end up in the dirt quite.
Yeah. It's tough.
So for the guys watching on YouTube, we are sitting literally surrounded by trophies, and
Small trophies.
you've clearly been doing this a while.
Don't forget the Z.
Oh man, that is
yes.
my favorite. I was
we go.
looking for that one. I'm glad you found that. I've been looking for that for years. Actually.
How old were you when you started, and like, what did you start off with karting? How did you get into racing, and what sort of led you to where you are now?
So I was I want to say a late bloomer because I didn't start when everyone else started at 5, and I can't say I came out the womb and I was just dreaming of racing. My dad used to take me to the track and I used to just cry. It was just too loud. But in my life, if I can't understand something, I won't like it. And because I couldn't understand racing, I think I was never that interested. Saying that, I always used to have a little push car. I can't remember. I must have been like 2 years old. And I just used to spend the whole time pushing it. But sorry, getting back, I get distracted. I say what got me into motorsport actually was my dad and I used to go to, I think it was a Wednesday night, and I could go to bed late because it was a school night. So you couldn't go to bed
Yeah,
late.
it's a big thing.
And I had to finish homework, but we used to go RC racing with RC cars.
Yes,
nice.
Yes. Yeah.
And it used to be a little parking lot, and I did it twice, and I think I won one, and I took out someone else, so that's probably why I fit in England quite well. But I did it twice, and then some lady drove over my Mini. I still remember it. It gives me trauma to this day. And that was the end of my RC racing. And then I think a few years passed, and I was such an active kid. I always did rugby, hockey. I used to get concussed like there's no tomorrow in rugby, so it wasn't my calling.
What position did you play?
Wing always. I used to just,
winger,
because I was
okay.
so scared of getting concussed that I used to just run past everybody.
I did exactly the same. I also played wing.
Exactly.
I was scared. I was so scared that it
That's
never
it.
caught me.
Exactly. So, but then I got a thing called Osgood-Schlattis. This is not interesting to anybody listening at all, but it's where your muscle just pushes out your bone. Very weird.
That sounds
Okay.
not
Is it like
pleasant.
a problem with growth, basically? Was it like
I
a
want to
specific
say
condition?
I was just too strong for my
Ah,
age, as you
okay,
can tell
okay.
from
Of
my
course.
physique. So
Like
then
the
I had to
Hulk.
stop. Yeah,
Popping
exactly.
out of
And then my mom told my dad, which is her worst mistake. She's upstairs, and I'm sure she's still regretting it. But she told my dad to take me to the indoor karting circuit, 4-stroke karting.
Yeah.
So my dad thought, perfect. So he took me to Kalani, put me in a 2-stroke little 60cc kart.
Commer car, I remember those.
Exactly. And I bought the kart, bought the suit, bought the helmet, I think all right then and there. Slept in my suit for about 4 days after just because of the smell of fuel. I had headaches for years
I
after.
still do that.
Oh, it's brilliant. I'll still have the rag. I'll just put it in my pocket and come on and just sniff it. And so that's what got me into racing. So then I did karting for many, many years. So I was been racing for about 10 years.
And that's where I met you.
That's
so
it.
in 2017, how old would you have been in 2017?
16.
16. I met you when you were 16.
Really?
You were a hot shot at the karting track, and I was this old dude who's bought a Clubman's kart for the first time, looking at all these kids flying past.
He's still an old dude,
daunting.
but the car's
Yeah,
bigger now.
I'm still an old dude with a bigger kart now.
So you started in your teens, basically, like racing karts in your teens,
Yeah.
essentially.
Old.
Okay.
Old.
That is like these days is considered
Geriatric.
like
Yeah.
old
The-
to
the-
start
yeah,
with,
the normal age of a kid starting is between 5 and 7.
Yeah.
That's
But you
where
have
you
to.
start. In
Yeah, it's such
Yeah.
a hard sport that you really have to start from such a young age.
And then after karts, what did you get into
So
from there?
Well, there's people always like after karts.
You never
It's
stop.
never
No,
after
no, you
carts.
never stop.
There's a carts
karts,
and.
but you focus
yeah,
on
that's it.
your focus moves from karts to focusing on bigger cars.
So I think some people stay in karting and can make a career overseas with they're still factory teams. That was not me. I was not karting. I had a love-hate relationship with karting. I still do. I think
So do
all of
I.
us do. But so then my driver trainer, who this man also knows,
Claudio, he also
world champion in karting and also Formula Ford. He did exceptionally
Legend.
well. But he introduced me to my current sponsor, Ian Schofield. And he ran a series, Formula 1600. He introduced us and he took a liking to me. So I joined his team and I raced in that series. So this is the Formula Ford 1600. It was the premium single-seater in the country. I raced in that for, I think, 3 years. I won the championship. So that was obviously good.
and this we've got the prize up here.
We do have the prize. That money's long gone.
I can imagine. I can
I don't
imagine.
think I even saw it. I think it went straight into next year's budget.
There we go, Dad. This.
Oh, I was very upset.
I mean that's kind of the car. If I think of I mean, you've known Andrew since a young age, but I mean, for me, that's been Cape Town for not long. If I think of Andrew, I think of that Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Formula 600, sorry.
Yeah.
I always think of you in that car. That's kind of the car
Yeah.
I always have associated.
Well, I mean,
you
That's
with.
the
and
that's the black
inside-
and red one, isn't it?
That's it.
No, but in South Africa, that's kind of what you're best known for because you
Yeah.
were national champion in Formula 1600.
I mean, you
which
did,
is the premier single-seater
Yeah.
series.
you
that-
did Samolo with that as
I
well.
was just
I
about
did.
to say you
Oh.
did Samola with that car, and you did really well at Samola.
So interestingly,
Was it the same
I
car?
can't take all the credit. So it was the same
the different engine.
chassis, yes. But it had a 2-liter instead of a 1.6, and it had a bit more aero, and it was paddle shift.
But you still need
So
to
it
pedal
wasn't
it
a
up there.
Formula 1600 at all.
And you kind of had a masterclass decision there, I remember, with the
With the
tires,
tyres.
with how
Oh,
wet
yes.
it was.
Because
think-
everyone was running wets, and then you guys went out and you said, "No, we're going to run on slick."
It's so stupid, yeah.
I couldn't stand up. I was falling down because of all the mud. I was so wet. And this guy's like, yo, let's go out on slicks.
We
You know,
were
let's
falling
run
down
out.
the hill like nobody's business.
Yeah.
He's running out on slicks, and I'm going. He does know it's raining, right?
I think it was because I was so young. I look back at it now. I look back at lots
I
of
was
questionable
thinking of
things.
our Offspring song. The kids are on the right, man.
No, they're not. I was just thinking, it's like, I look back at lots of decisions I've made, moves and whatnot, like that. Slicks. I mean, Samola.
That's steep down there if you get it wrong.
Scary.
But that car is really not built for that kind of driving. I mean, this is this is a
you
race
start
car
taking off and...
that's driving on a relatively bumpy public road.
Lined by trees and all sorts of
lined by
other
trees.
things.
And lots
And
of
a
people just
massive
land
fall.
up in people's back gardens. Do
Yeah.
you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
car?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yo.
So I mean that in that car, it must be quite scary pedaling up that hill.
No, you're wrong. Before you get into the car, it's scary.
Okay.
But as soon as you're in the car, everything just...
Calms down.
Tunnel
Yeah,
vision.
but it sounds so
But
cliche.
once he's in the car, he thinks it's a PlayStation game and he doesn't, you know, like.
But no, it's more I just want to win. It's just such a determination to win that I think, okay, maybe I still am a bit stupid now, but at all costs, it doesn't matter. If something happens, something will happen.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
you just have to
that
trust
car
yourself.
on that road, does it not just bounce around all over the place?
Oh, I
Is it
can't
not-
wait to show you a video. It is chaotic. So I,
mean,
did it in
I
that
saw,
car.
I saw onboard footage of your run that you did.
Oh, you
shall
did?
be-
I think you guys.
We'll shall
I
be
think you
showing
guys
the
posted
video
it.
right here.
And I mean, at no point during that run, even going straight up the hill, was the steering wheel pointing straight.
No.
I mean, it's
no.
just, it's mad.
chaotic.
It sounds a bit like my 4C on the N1.
But did you podiumed the class that year, right?
I-
or like the overall in single seaters?
So it was. I did it in. I can't remember which year was what. I think
2 years ago. But you did the
3
the-
years
did
ago.
this?
I did it in the 2-liter Ford,
Then
but
you did
then
the
I did it in the
Formula
Formula Volkswagen.
Yes.
Yes.
One of them, I can't remember what. One of them, I hit a cone or whatnot, and I got disqualified.
Yes, I remember
But
that.
one, I won my class.
Well, I see 2 trophies here. That one's 2021. That's a second place. I'm not sure what the one
No,
behind your
I'm gonna
head
chuck
is.
that away. Where's the other one?
Well, all the second place things are,
They actually, if you look, it actually looks like
23,
I've
yeah.
come second my whole life.
no, really, there's a lot of firsts there.
But so and then the one I won, but the coolest thing was Peter Solberg came with his
Yes,
The polo
World
R,
Rallycross
yeah.
Rallycross.
And the cool thing at Samola Hillcom is they do that 0 to 60 or 0 to 100
Yes.
meters
Yeah.
or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'd always try to get as close as possible. And
Yeah.
for, I don't know, his gearing obviously is different, but his launch is what would make up most of the time.
Yeah.
But our times were always within like less than a tenth.
Oh, wow.
And I always just wanted to beat him.
Will.
I didn't.
Yeah, but that's insane. I mean,
I mean,
it's
completely different cars,
but
but,
it's
it was
insane.
just so cool. Such a down to earth.
I mean,
Yeah.
that thing is built to launch.
It is,
Yeah.
and it launches so fast.
And he kind of used like all the track. When I mean all the
Yes.
track, it's
Oh,
like
yes.
that car doesn't matter if it goes off road or on road. It
No,
just
no,
went.
next to the track, taking
It
shortcuts.
just
And
went.
And also, it has that specific launch procedure you have to go through.
it's got the
just
anti-lag
like
thing and the whole, you know,
So I didn't
spooling
have
up
a
and-
turbo, but I was just going on the like. That sounds about right where I start, and then
Just
you
go.
know within half a split second if it's wheel spinning or if you've bogged and you look like an absolute moron.
Yeah.
I want to actually touch on another car that you've driven, and you won. I remember you won the Rani Kilani in it, GTC, because you did GTC as well, in the interim
did, the
as well.
Golf.
I did.
And I kind of like, if I can ask like a 2-barrel, because I know we wanted to talk about Simola, and I don't know how far we are even in all of this already.
We got time. We're good.
Is firstly, I want to know how that was, because a lot of people say like actually in their current form they're really difficult to drive. And you were like in a probably like a maybe like an earlier generation of the
Yeah.
GTCs, like the Audi, which probably was, you know, you had to wheel it, because I remember
Was not
at
competitive.
Kilani you had to like, I think you pulled like a Leclerc and Monza, like defending like crazy,
Yeah.
quite a bit. And then I want to ask you, like, from a South African motorsport perspective, looking at all the series that we run and running in the UK, what do you think will work really well here? Because we've got
From the UK.
and just in general,
From
if
internationally.
from international, what series do you think? Because we've got a lot of different series, like in South Africa, like a little bit of representation. But is there something that you see works really well there, apart from, I think, the abundance of cash and, you know, resources, that you'd think would really work well here? Because I think it would be cool if we have GTC, right, which is top tier, but you have to give your opinion on it. We all know, like, listen, it's not touring car, unfortunately. But for instance, if we dedicated like a proper GT3 series, which actually is doing pretty
We've
well,
got a GT3 series
which is
now.
I know it's more
endurance
gentleman
series.
drivers, but it's actually cool to see that it's up and running. So yeah, I want to know from you, like, do you think something? What would you recommend as someone who's driven outside to that? Would make it relevant for South Africans, that they can race here and then jump over to go and compete overseas.
See, so the funny thing is, we have no one in the world should be under any illusion that the drivers in South Africa are not as good as them.
Absolutely.
Our drivers are brilliant. And I think there are lots of people, our challenge is breaking through into the overseas world. That's always going to be a challenge. But
That
there's
takes
so
money.
many, exactly. And there's so many people that don't have the opportunity that could easily make a career out of racing. So going back to your question, I think all the series that we have, you can't take a series from England and put in South Africa and make it work, because the series are designed to be for the South Africans. Otherwise, it would just be enormously expensive. But what I'm so passionate about is when I go to England and you try walk to the bathroom, you're stopped all the time. You are seen as a god, because you're just seen as this. It's just
Racing drivers are still heroes.
They
Exactly.
appreciate racing drivers.
because it's so big. I mean, culturally,
We
you
get that all
speak
the
to-
time. I mean, obviously. Podcast is the same thing. I'm telling you.
Exactly.
It's-
Can't go anywhere without getting autographed. But I mean, the amount of people that you can talk to, anyone in England, Porsche Cup, they know exactly what you're talking about, who you are. I mean, my dad was at, okay, long story, but my dad was at, I think that he landed in Manchester, and the person in passport control said, actually, I know this name. is your son Andrew Rackstraw. So it's kind
wow,
of
okay, that's a
things
big
like that.
thing.
It's
Wow.
completely, you would never get something like that in South Africa.
It's more like, you know, the mainstream sports fanatic watches motorsport.
Exactly.
Right? Like they
Exactly.
And it used to be like that in South Africa.
But this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
what I'm
that's-
saying.
yeah, you're
when
right.
I was a kid,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the
was
80s
huge.
and the 90s, we had
was on
manufacturers.
SABC.
That's it.
It was massive. That it would be top sport.
That's it.
Was the sport thing, and the same that you would have the Curry Cup on the rugby or the cricket. You would have the
The motor
races.
races.
If the nationals are at Killarney,
Yeah,
they
it'd be
would be
live.
showing the nationals and the group ends
That's
and
it,
the
yeah.
whatever. And Sarah van der Merwe was
He was a household name.
like
That's it.
Schumacher is in Germany. You know, there was not a middle class family who did not know who Sarah van der Merwe was.
Exactly.
He was known. He was a household name.
But I think, from that era, South African motorsport hasn't, I think, be it the people in South Africa just maybe aren't interested in motorsport because we're so disconnected in terms of overseas. But it's just, for me, it's sad because I don't see why there isn't a reason we can't get thousands
I think
of
a
people.
lot of it has to do with the fact that motor racing in South Africa doesn't get broadcast.
So this is
The SABC
exactly.
basically failed, and you know,
Well, I think that's
motorsports in South Africa doesn't really get
to be
broadcast.
fair. That's kind of you can just stop there. The SAB's kind of failed. Full stop.
Yeah, but I think now with streaming, it's sort of starting to make a comeback, and I have noticed that the crowds at Killarney are getting bigger for the regional events.
Yeah.
So
But-
there is more support, but it's still not where it should be.
But how? So now let's say there's a race at Killarney. How would you, if you're not part of motorsport, know that there's a race at Killarney? Or like,
Yeah.
what is there to do? In England, you go to the racetrack, you bring your family. I mean, there's jungle gyms, there is anything you can imagine.
It's a whole day out.
It's a
and
whole
one
day
thing.
out, and it's an experience. You can, there are teams giving away shirts and, I mean, giving tours. You can go into the back to see what it's all about.
Write that down. You can, next time,
Oh,
shirts and stuff.
yeah. Shirts, stickers, flyers.
But
yeah.
I mean, in South Africa, how
We don't
do you
need
know
to write
there's a
it down.
race?
We are
But I think
recording.
that's what makes we I mean, we're going to definitely talk about Samola, but I think that's what makes Samola somehow getting right. Is
Exactly,
they
yes.
partnered up with the right people, and you know
Exactly.
what? Like I mean, having been to we've gone to, like, all of us gone to like a couple of international events. You compete in them as both a spectator. As a spectator, firstly, walking into the gates at Samola is equivalent to walking into a Formula One event. I mean,
Agreed.
there's no difference
There's
between
a special.
There is.
I mean, I mean, it feels for me the same. I remember I was slept in a tent out at Spa when we went to the Formula One, and I remember you get the same vibe as walking up to Samola and hearing the cars in the distance as what you have at Spa
Yeah.
when you're in the mountains and you just hear the howling of the cars, and that's effing special as a car guy. Like that gives me, like, you know.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I mean, it's
you
like
get
it's
that smell of morning dew mixed with burning
Tires and petrol and-
brakes and
And you see how many
petrol, and
people go
it's-
to Samola.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not because you can see a car person and we all look very different to what normal people look like. But I mean, everybody is there.
There's a lot of casuals, like normal
lot.
muggles,
Not-
normal people
They
there.
don't really know about
Yeah.
motor racing,
Yeah.
but they're
But
there
it's
and
an
they
event.
love their day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
We need to do that. That's what's like. I think. I mean, we remember when they tried to make. I mean, I think we've discussed it, like, at some of the events. There's a lack of marketing, and I don't know where this starts. Like, and I guess, you know, inevitably the onus lies on us, right? It's this sort of like, you know, you're younger than us, so you've got more time to do it. But on, you know, the average motor enthusiast like us to start, you know, inspiring. Well, is what we're trying to kind of like do here now, right?
Yeah.
It's what
I
we're
think
trying to do
that's
as well.
that's one of our cornerstones of what
The podcast,
we're
though.
trying to
Or
do with
the
induction
induction
noise, with everything that we try and do is we had this discussion today, Nico. Now we're trying to kind of put our money where our mouth is. So all my cars I'm racing this year.
Good, man. Good.
My road car. Oh, by the way, we just got accepted for.
Yeah,
Samola.
for the 4C as well.
So I'm going to take my one daily driver up the hill at Samola, my 4C, and my other daily driver, my 30-year-old RAV4, we're going to do some rally and rally crossing with. And then my race car we race.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, I mean, all of us are you know, kind of moving
Real life,
towards something,
virtually,
racing,
all
building
of
a
it.
Supra, doing some racing stuff. but I think also just promoting stuff.
That's it.
So we're trying to share on social media, share through our channels, and just, if we're not going to build motorsport and get people excited, nobody's going to do it for us.
That's it.
I think all of us as petrol heads we've got a certain responsibility to get people involved.
Anyone from Samola is racing, if from Samola is listening, I'm perfectly happy to enter my daily as well. I just need a class created for old broken diesel station.
will get that done.
But he's got the perfect car standing semi-completed, like your Harper. That's the perfect car. He's got a Harper
You
on.
didn't say anything about a Harper. You were just saying about your.
He's got a Hopper with a Lexus V8 in the back.
which we just need to finish building.
I do have that, but it needs finishing.
Yeah, but if we
But
can
we have to
build-
put our money where our mouth is.
exactly.
Isn't that what we were just talking
exactly.
about?
The problem is I don't have any money.
There's no lack of mouth, but we work
I
on
have
the
to
rest.
put the food where the mouth is right now.
I mean,
get there.
if we can build a 25k Supra, I'm sure we can somehow build
Yeah,
a
I'm confident that the Harper will get done. It's just it's challenging at times, and one very expensive ex-girlfriend and a pandemic later, it's not done yet. But it will happen. What I wanted to ask you is, everyone who's a car guy likes to think of themselves as a good driver. But the more you spend time on the track and the more you race with other people, or you go out on track with people who are proper racing drivers, you start to realize, I can't do what you do in a car. And even though I'm a pretty decent driver compared to most people on the N2, I can't do what Niku does in a car. I can't do what Andre or Neil does in a car. I think out of the four of us, I'm probably the worst driver on track.
You also have the least experience, bro.
Yeah, you just don't have the experience.
Granted, I've got the least track experience.
You
out
just
of the
need
four
to
of us,
get
but
more
still.
experience.
The
again.
thing is, you don't realize how little you know about driving until you get in a car with someone who really knows how to drive. And my question is, you are now racing on a really high level. I mean,
Top tier.
top tier stuff. Do you still have guys that you sort of look at their driving, or you watch them racing, or you race against them, and you think to yourself, fuck me, that guy's good? Is there still people out there who like really impress you, or have you kind of ruined it for yourself?
No, I don't think you ever ruin it for yourself. I think what you do over the years is, like you said, experience is everything. So, and it's also confidence. I mean, I have enough confidence to get into a car I don't know and be on the limit within a lap. But you don't have that confidence if you haven't had that experience. So, and I've always said this is another topic that we can
It's
talk.
because you've done it with 1,000 cars after
But
one
so
lap.
this is the thing.
You're not going to do the
That's
second
it.
car you get into ever and do it
That's
after a lap.
So, I mean, again, we come back to like talent. When you say like these great drivers, I always have said, I genuinely feel like with enough work and sim work, sim training, all this electronics that we have today, you can make anybody just as fast as the top guys. Obviously, this takes a lot of work. I truly believe this one.
You don't think talent plays into that?
I think
A natural
talent,
ability.
you always will have. However,
Hard
the people
work
with
beats
talent.
talent, dude.
So this is
Sure.
the thing. So lots of people have talent, and you can see it. So back to your question, you can see someone when they are talented, but because they are talented, they don't have to work,
Don't work
as
as hard.
hard. And the people that work 10 times harder will beat them on track. So
Like,
talent
for
isn't
me,
everything.
The guys who go out on the track and like to give a stupid example of two famous names, if you look at Lauda versus Hunt,
Oh,
you know
that movie.
Lauda.
Oh, it's one of the best.
Oh my word.
Lauda was the guy who put in the work. He was the grafter.
Exactly.
He put in the work, and
He
that's
did
what
have a
made him
fair
quit.
chunk of talent
Look,
as
he
well.
had a fair chunk of talent.
He wasn't the.
He's sensitive asshole, as he said, basically. He's got a,
James was the guy who just drove on raw talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he would throw a car into a corner at way too fast and somehow pull it out.
Yeah.
And Senna was like that as well. I mean,
I think
he
he-
had a feel for a car that other people don't have.
But Hunt just had raw confidence. I think.
Yeah,
It was just like.
massive.
I mean,
balls.
that's what I was going to say.
There's
He,
no other
he
way
actually
around
said
it.
it in the interview,
Yeah.
that
Big balls.
famous interview. How do you do this? The big balls.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's interesting because if you take today the exact same people they are and put them in the same cars as they raced, not these modern F1s, but had the data that you have now and the electronic, who do you think would come out on top?
Louder.
Louder, yeah.
I think
Definitely.
So it's
I think
interesting.
Lauder's graphs would be nice, smooth curves, and I think James Hunt's curves would look like this.
Yeah,
But I think he would analyze it more
Yeah.
and
But
try
that's
and
slower.
maximize.
And,
But that's
Hunt would also tell his engineer, like, screw yeah, I'm going for a smoke and a beer, and I'll come jump in the car, you can't show me shit, you know?
Yeah.
That's
So
kind of
times
what Hunt
change.
would do, yeah.
I think the
Exactly.
But I mean,
interesting.
at the end of the day, there's still people that you look at and you go,
Oh, 100%. I think there are people obviously in my series that you look at and you go, they are good. But I have never, against people that I raced, been able to idolize anybody because they are just another person I have to beat. So I can't be worse than them. It's-
so let's
I mean, the way you
let's
have
do
to
the
think
name
about it.
drops. Who's your nemesis? Who's your nemesis
This is
right
the one
now?
thing we can't talk about.
So I think, first of all, all the people you've raced against ever. So, kind of part of his question, all the people you've raced against ever, who is your toughest competitor? And then also locally. I think a lot of listeners will like to know, who's locally, who is the, if you have to, I know it's hard
There was
because
this bearded old guy in karting.
slightly different class, but he really looked up to him.
I know the racing driver in you is not going to want to answer that because let's be honest, and I'm going to say it, you thinking I've made everyone my bitch. Like,
No, I'm not under the illusion.
He will never say that, but he thinks
No, but it's cool. No, I'm
Never.
just saying, like you can beat you. I've beaten everyone. But I always go on the terms of like this. Vulnerability is not weakness, right? If they like to say like, oh, a guy gave me a good go. Doesn't
sounds like
mean
someone a
he's-
weak person says.
No, but I agree.
3.5 tens what?
If you want to talk shit, you got to be accurate. It's 9 tenths. Okay?
I was trying to make it a soft blow.
No, but I mean, of the people you've raced against, who were really like tough competitors, who you really kind of gave you a bit of uphill, and whether you beat them all the time or they beat you some of the time, but who would come to mind? And I know it's hard because there'd probably be a lot of guys, even locally, that you've raced against in karting and stuff. At some point, they were tough competitors, but some that stand out, kind of.
That is such a hard question because everyone you race against in every series, you have people who are.
Or you don't have
So
to pick one, or
competitive.
just a few names that you can think of that was good competitive.
The only person I can compare with, and I spoke to Andrew a bit before this because he was kind of, when I was matric, he was grade 8 in my school, etc. So I have to kind of.
So Nico kind of taught him to drive.
Yeah, I taught him to drive. He's Stewie White. He's the only guy I can really compare you to, but you guys kind of went to complete different series.
I always.
But you did race against each other for a bit.
So I think for a year, but I would hop into the series. He was always a series above because he started when he was younger.
Yeah, he started. when
So
was
I
way
went to
young.
Formula 1600, and I think the next year he left.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've never been able
Once
to.
you grew really into it, he was gone.
He was gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, I race against him at the 9 hour. I think Stewie is a great driver. That is a good name. But like other names that come to mind, it's like Robbie Volk is one of the most successful drivers we've had in South African motorsport with the championships
He's
won.
running everything. He's
Exactly. So I think, I mean, even in karting, you have Charles Visser, Tate Bishop. They're just so insane.
Did you run against Umpi for a bit?
So
Umpi
Umpi, no.
Well, he was also a bit older than you.
He was,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I raced against him a bit in Cinemax.
But he was going more towards DD2.
That's it.
And you stuck in.
So, I mean, Yuri's also another great example where he can get into anything and be quick. I think there's not a single name that
stands out above here.
No. Well,
I mean, there's a lot of good guys. There isn't like one.
Every series has an
that stands out.
amazingly great driver, and it won't be justice for me to genuinely sit here and start picking names, because if someone's listening,
you're gonna miss someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think everyone in any series to win a championship is seriously hard. So I think all the drivers that are winning it here in South Africa, in any of our national series, they can go overseas and there's no reason they won't win.
You've kind of got the Formula One talk down here, I must admit.
Yeah, geez, like, but I want to add like another. So we can even ask you when
we're
we're
doing
gonna.
this professional driving thing since yesterday.
So we're gonna ask him when he retires one day. Then maybe then you know.
Then I'll give you a proper answer. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Jokes
We'll get him drunk one night and then
That'll be easy.
Yeah, I know. Screw that, Oak. You know.
So like 20 years from now, it's going to be Induction Noise Media publishes The Life of Andrew Rackstraw. And then you can write all about this,
100%.
you know?
I'm going to ask you something about the karting. What's the deal with guys not wanting to jump into DD2? Because you all prefer. I'm Senior Max, right? I'm going to shoot from the hip, and I kind of like, not to preempt your answer, but I think I know what you're going to say. But why not? Why not DD2s?
So my driver trainer, Claudio, who we've already discussed, the whole thing, I did actually Senior Max and DD2 joint in 1 year or 2 years. I love DD2. I wish I could have done it more. But Senior Max, because it has less power, it doesn't have front brakes, to be smooth is the most important thing.
It's harder to be good.
I think you have to be smoother in Senior Max because you can get away. You still have to be insanely smooth in DD2 because it has more power. It has 2 gears. But you can get away with it. But if you bog a bit, you can power out.
Yeah.
In Senior Max, you will be annihilated. And this was what we built my, I think, driving style on, was a Senior Max being super smooth. And that's what I've tried. And it's really worked. I mean, even in Porsche Cup, you adapt that same smooth driving style. So, I mean, everyone has a different driving style. Mine, I like to think it's being very smooth and feeling the car. So that's actually why I never stepped up.
I would be screwed in Porsche because I've told you this many a times. I can't drive smooth. I'm always just on the edge of sliding. I don't know why.
But some people drive like that. I mean, even in Porsche Cup, you will get people who will just be... If you can perfect your driving style, you can still be fast.
Yeah.
But that's also the nice, I think, in general, you know, not to make it like a general topic about Formula One, but that's, I think, I enjoy a series thing where guys can apply different driving styles.
Yeah.
You know, where you can see like where you can have an environment where someone can maybe have a super smooth style, or someone can employ like, you know, a more slidey style, which I guess you can't do in
More
modern,
dynamic.
you know, in modern Formula One, for instance. I think that's maybe one of the things
Yeah,
that is a little
you
bit
see,
missing for me.
That's
there's
why I'm
one way.
not a Formula One driver, you know.
Yeah,
But I would love to
that's
put
the
out
only reason.
a controversial statement.
Ooh, here we go. Now
Well,
we're
not
getting
that controversial.
now we're
'cause
getting the tea.
I hope
Okay.
some people agree with me. But Formula One nowadays is no longer the best group of drivers.
No,
The reason I say this, and people can disagree with me because it's very healthy to have opinions.
Yeah.
But I fully agree with this because in Formula One, you're choosing from Formula 2. You don't see any drivers coming from LMDH, endurance, or anything. You only see Formula 2, that's 20 people with the most money. You can't get to Formula 2
100%.
without incredible money or an insane sponsor, very unlikely. That you don't see people getting into Formula 1 without money.
Yeah.
So
I
now
agree
you
with
look
you.
at
I don't think
endurance
any one of us-
racing. So now if anyone listening, if you want to watch the best racing, go watch WEC, IMSA, IndyCar,
DTM.
DTM.
It's
I mean, that
the closest
racing
racing
is
Porsche Cup
amazing.
UK. It's
Yeah.
Formula 40 if you're into single seaters.
Oh, that is the best racing in the world. I will
You
stand
can
by
watch
it.
Sports and GT at Killarney even, you know, you can
That's
watch it in
it.
person.
Literally anything. But I think the drivers, there are so many manufacturers involved in this endurance racing. Those drivers are insanely good. I mean, my team manager last year, Nick Tandy,
What a legend.
Oh wow, is he your team
Yeah.
manager? That's
What a
awesome.
legend.
Yeah.
absolute living
Machine.
god. This is someone who I idolize because I was a kid and looking at him winning things.
Yeah.
And,
And he's still winning things.
and he's still, so now for people who don't know who Nick Tandy is, he's a Porsche factory driver and he races in LMDH in IMSA, but will also do Le Mans. He has just won every single 24-hour event that there is with Porsche.
Yes, I saw.
First driver ever to do that. That
Yeah.
is
Mad.
incredible.
Yeah.
And he's just I'll tell him to listen to this podcast, but he's just like this little, you would never
I'm
expect.
sure he listens already. I mean, we're pretty
I'm
famous.
sure he's a subscriber. It's fine.
Just the most normal person, the most talented driver I've ever come across because
He's a legend. I mean, he's
absolute living legend. And he's just the small farmer who, the fame hasn't got him in the slightest, and he
That's
just
awesome.
cruises around on his farm. And what he loves the most is not, I don't know if I can say this, but it's not that, but it's like oval dirt racing. That's
Okay.
his
That is
actual
cool.
passion.
That is cool.
Which
And he
fair,
races
yeah.
that in
It's
the
just
UK.
I don't think so much anymore, but he used to be a big fan. I don't think Porsche will maybe let him because of if
That
he gets
is-
injured. But
Yeah, it's
Well, it's good practice. If you look at like in the US, not just the oval guys, you guys chatted to Gunther about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
had
I
a lot
mean,
of say
it's
about
huge.
that's a lot of guys use you use karting. I guess a lot of guys in the US use
That's it.
dirt oval racing.
So
that's exactly what Gunther said.
What's
yeah.
very interesting with Gunther, so I don't know if you know Luke Drotsky, Gunther's son.
no.
You know Gunther Drotsky,
Yes.
right? That sells the karting stuff and all the G&A stuff. So his son races in the US in midgets and like national series and stuff there. And I mean, it's on dirt. But I mean, it's such a professional outfit that
Yeah.
these guys are talking about.
Yeah.
He uses a KZ card to do
train.
driver training to keep him sharp for that.
Yeah.
And it's the amount of money and technology that goes into that is just next level.
Incredible.
And that's in the and people always think about it's this like rednecks going in a circle.
But they don't understand.
Yeah, it's everything that goes into it, and the driving and the big names that come out and do
Huge.
these things, and these like big NASCAR names and IndyCar names that just goes and does these events and there's almost more of that. What we said is that it's this fun factor, It's like these big
100%.
names that come and race that, and it's like
And to do that,
with Formula One, it's too expensive and they can't afford. We said it like Verstappen. He would love to do, a GT3 race, or he's
no,
got a
he
GT3
wouldn't.
team.
Did you not hear his comment though?
No?
He will not race GT3, and I think this is a
What?
problem. So, well, I could be wrong, but I mean, like you said, those IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers doing the dirt race, to do that when you're so on such a high level and to have the risk of being beaten by someone local.
No. But there's no. He's not allowed to do it now. There's no chance.
Who are you talking about?
No, Max Verstappen.
Oh, I know that.
There's no chance that he will
No, of
allow it at the
course.
moment. Before he's done with
100%.
F1, he won't be allowed to race anything else.
But he says he won't do it unless the BOP is fixed.
Which is fair, because now somebody in a faster car beats him, and now it's like you're
But
a
this
crap
is where
driver.
it's thing is.
It's kind of what's currently happening. Let's be honest.
I want to go back to what you said because I agree with you on that one. Like I know it's like couch potato opinion on it, but Formula One and the whole drive, it's become a circus. And you know what? Like people always say, like, we're not ring fencing our sport, right? We talked about how we need to get people in, but there's a drive to survive effect that has kind of like made it a show.
Completely.
And that
It's a reality
is
show.
It was the best thing that
it is-
ever happened to Formula One.
It is, but
And the
but
worst
it's and the worst thing because I think there's now they've brought it to the masses, but for us that are really into the finer details, like I sat at a family event once, like, oh no, they're just going in circles. And I was like, waarom praat jy, man? Jy weet nie soos wat. It's like, shut the hell up. There's details about that I think we sweat. We sweat the details of like the intra-team politics. Why this one is blocking that one. Looking at the stints. Like seeing a like we talked about that one thing with Max in the wet going through Upper Rouge. And I was like, geez, KU, that's crazy to catch a car. That sort of like that's quite impressive. And everyone's like on social media, oh, it's a boring race. It's like they're pandering to that, and they're pushing out the enthusiast, in my opinion. Like and on top of that, you have like a bunch of guys that are, their resumes get padded by like getting pushed through the series, and that's the other thing that we talked about the Sennas and these guys of the day, or Jim Clark, that, he didn't die in a Formula 1 car, right?
Yeah, he died in a
Formula 2 car. And I have a problem with these guys that are only committed to one event. I want to see more Alonso's in the Indy.
In Dakar and everywhere.
I want to, we've got the Carl Lawson, Max Verstappen. Okay, Max, go
Set up something.
Set up something, man. Like, let's go. Let's see this. I want to see it. And they don't want to do that because, oh no, they're specialists in one thing. I hate that.
This guy just told us that he's a specialist in Porsche Cup and he's not going to do
No, but not just that, spiders as well.
I mean,
Come on.
I can understand it.
I can get where you are, because I want to ask you what is the aim of Porsche, but now I think you've kind of already answered that by Porsche looking at the sort of next game talent. I assume if you want to win that's the goal for you, right?
Porsche Cup, I mean, you have Porsche Cup Great Britain, Porsche Cup Italy, Germany, Deutschland.
Charles Visser is racing in the Portuguese
It's
or
the
South
pre-season
South Europe
races,
one
yeah.
or something.
The winter series, they call it. So Southern Europe is what he's doing. So I think if you can, I think it's the top three. If you come in the top three and that Porsche of, let's say, England. So let's say I win the championship this year or come in the top three and Porsche choose you to go do a shootout in Germany to be, the whole point of this is to be a Porsche junior driver worldwide. And then from there, that's the inroad to being a factory driver. If you can get chose for that and win that, obviously we're talking about shooting for the stars, but you have to. All of these drivers do. So that's the goal, and then hopefully. But I mean, there's so many ways to skin a cat. It's a weird saying, very weird saying. Actually,
Yeah.
just thinking about that. My Toby, my Ginger Ninja.
That's why your Ginger Ninja's so standoffish with you, right? It's these kind of statements, bro. I mean,
But I think you can do almost anything, and if you're good enough, you will get noticed. Our problem is you have to stay in the racing world overseas for long enough.
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
You have to survive that.
In Porsche Cup, as you said, the cars are all sort of on the same level-ish. Has there ever been in your career a point in time where you felt like you weren't racing against your other competitors but against your own car because the car just didn't work for some reason? Because I can only imagine the frustration there.
We will gloss over this question.
Can I phone a friend?
The smile kind of answers it for me.
Yeah. That's 100%.
it happens.
But the thing is, it's so difficult. I mean, I look at, once again, Stuart White. It feels to me like at a stage he was bouncing around between teams, and I don't know if it's just because of, the difficulty with a car that wasn't set up right, or that he just didn't gel with. And then, you see him jump to that. I think he was at Emilia something racing.
Emilia Frey racing.
Yeah. And I remember speaking to a family member of his, and it was it's kind of brutal to hear, but I mean, that's motorsport. It's like, okay, cool. If he doesn't win this series now, he's like kicked out. It's like, sorry for you, but
it's
you're
such
gone.
a cutthroat sport.
It's a cutthroat.
And it's a cutthroat sport.
Because there's 10 other guys waiting in the
But
wings.
now you kind of, you're like, okay, cool. So is this set up properly? Is this, and it's stuff that you obviously can't talk about because you never want badmouth anything that you can kind of go back to.
Yeah, but something it's not necessarily anybody's mistake. The car breaks. There's just some part that breaks.
You have to
and you don't get the points, and then you are.
have to
But
have
it's like you said, it's a cutthroat sport. So for this Porsche Cup, almost the mentality is the first year's learning. It is so hard, so challenging. There's no one who just gets in and wins it in their first year, especially with how I think it's, even Porsche was saying it's the most competitive they've ever seen it. So the second year is when you need to win.
So
now I'm competing against whatever it is, 10, 12 people who've in the pro category who's also started last year or 3 years ago. But if you don't win in your second year and you win in your third, the problem is people look at it and go, yeah, but he's had so much experience.
Yeah.
So this is the problem you're getting to. And also teams don't, every single team overseas wants someone who can win for them because that brings in the actual money.
Yes.
So then they'll be happy to have a gentleman driver pay for you, and then you all of a sudden get factory drives. But if you're not winning, there's someone else
Sorry.
who can.
Yeah.
There's so many people who can win, and they will have more money than you. They will have whatever. They can speak the language. They gel better with the team. So, okay, if you don't win, you're out.
It's that why you've been learning like multiple languages and stuff before you came. Is that why you?
No, that's to try to get the passport, Portuguese passport. Oh my.
Oh wow,
word.
okay. Well, because we were thinking
Nice,
about because
man.
we were talking about the Van der Lindes, who I said like they all speak German, and I've worked for German companies for the last 12 years, and I know if you speak the language, so I guess there's some
Get far.
100%.
you can get far. You need to communicate.
That's
in
a
the,
commitment
So
that they made.
I'm gonna completely offend every Portuguese person on the planet.
Oh no, don't.
Which is fine. 'cause my-
It's our favorite restaurant to go to. Like
This
you know,
guy's
when
not
you-
gonna,
'cause
this
my-
guy's not
my
gonna get his
mother's-
passport, bro.
because
you-
my
were you
mother's
about to say
Portuguese, it's fine.
Nando's?
I can do that.
No, in Nice Night. So not a Portuguese
Portuguese,
restaurant where we
yes.
go to.
Oh yes, it is. Yeah. So you can't badmouth
but
Portuguese. You've been
the thing
eating
is-
livers there the entire time. That make me want to puke.
The thing is, like, my ex-girlfriend from years ago before I met my
Yeah,
wife,
but that's
Now,
a
the
you
story's
issue.
gonna
Yeah, I was
end.
just gonna-
That's a you issue.
she was Portuguese, and her parents were like fully Portuguese. They spoke Portuguese in the house and whatever. And I always thought to myself, it just sounds like a drunk person speaking Spanish. Doesn't it?
Maybe she was just like saying that in your ear very
Yeah, well, she just
Quentin, but
she just really didn't like you.
Yeah, I
It's
think.
just like,
Does a drunk
This is entirely possible.
does a drunk person speaking Spanish sound different to a drunk person speaking Portuguese? Maybe you were just confused.
No.
and a drunk person speaking Mexican, how does that sound? I mean, you probably know that with the
You know
amount of
Mexican
tequila.
and Spanish is the same, right?
Well, that's why it's Mexican. A drunk Mexican.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't speak Spanish, but I'm fluent in Mexican.
Exactly. Because they just go, hola, señor, and that's all.
That has to be clipped. That part is
And that's not Spanish, right? That's Mexican.
Si, senor.
That's si, señor.
Si,
That's
señor.
Mexican. I went to the border.
You know, with the amount of time that we spend driving in Mexico, I'd have thought you'd learn the language.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
it's
thought you would have
Mexican.
you'd have picked up the language by now.
It's Mexican. It's not Spanish.
Nico, you're not getting your green card, basically. Sorry.
He's not getting his gringo card.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so gonna get cancelled.
No, it's
Oh,
fine.
100%. I'm going out with you guys.
We're either
far
getting
too
cancelled or deported. One of the
Because immediately when you said no, you've got some Portuguese class, I thought about are you going to be based at the Algarve for some reason? And I thought about like
No.
what is your favorite racetrack there in Europe that you're racing at the moment?
Or is that also something you're not allowed to say?
No,
to not
100%,
offend any
no,
track
mine-
owners.
I think. Oh, it's so hard. So my first ever LMP3 test, which I did, was at Portimao.
Oh yeah.
And that
Oh,
was
yes.
an incredible
But
circuit and in
everyone
car
that I've
combination.
ever heard of that have gone and driven at Portimao all say that it's like the best circuit.
It's like
they've
a roller
ever-
coaster.
so
right?
amazing.
Like-
It's just, I think also with the amount of downforce and power you have in
Yes.
those P3 cars,
It's lovely things.
It's like
just insane.
probably
It's like
crazy.
what I love about it is it feels like poetry in motion. So that has to be one of my favorite circuits. One of my love-hate relationships is Knockhill. And if
That's
whoever
tough, eh?
doesn't know it must go search a YouTube video
Yeah.
because it is
It's insane.
wild. Absolutely wild.
It shouldn't be a track.
Firstly,
It's like this weird.
it is freezing and it's always absolutely just I mean
Let's
you're
sit it
this
Where's,
cold.
is it in Scotland or where is
It's
it?
in Scotland.
It's a very short little track,
Very
right?
short circuit, but it was
But
the
it's
first
it's
track
also
I did
a
in
car
England.
killer, as far as I can remember.
Oh, yeah,
everyone, everyone complains that Knockhill
Because you
kills the car.
ramp the curb.
Yeah.
I must also show a photo of hitting a curb. I'm
Yeah.
gonna show it here.
Please just send that to me so that I can actually put it in the video.
Otherwise, it's just
It's gonna be like it's gonna be a black block.
So those I think are my two
Okay.
favorites.
And Silverstone?
No, you see, but it's just boring. It's just
Okay.
there's no down up undulation. It's
kind
It's
of
an
a-
amazing circuit, and it's so cool because your Formula One heroes have been there, blah blah blah. But I mean, the actual circuit is just
kind
That's what I hear as well from most of the circuits. Because in the UK, there are a lot of circuits that were converted from airfields, and
after
Silverstone's
the
one of
wall.
them.
That's
Trucks.
So
Flat
they,
and all
they
that.
end up being straights connected with corners.
Throxton's a mad track, so fast. That's where I got my first win, actually.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, you're right. So that's why going to places like Nokia is. But there's no track like Nokia. Nokia is actually just a big karting circuit, is what it is.
Yes.
It
Is it
almost
really
like
is
cars
Nokia? I
shouldn't
mean,
be on
I
there.
know I've seen the videos, but is it fairly quick or just very technical?
It's very technical.
No,
it's like
it's
this
so technical.
weird-
But I mean, it's also like you hit the first curb and you're like. The problem is you have to land because the next corner is left. So you hop over it and you're facing this way, and the next corner is left.
that way,
Knockhill, you kind of have to plan your line 4 corners in advance because everything is so on top of each other.
Yeah.
And if you miss your line through the first one, you're screwed for the fourth.
And then you strain the gravel because it's
Yeah.
just so thin. That's like Silverstone is so forgiving.
Yeah.
You can lock up a tire, go hundreds of meters down the road, and you're still on the road.
Overtaking at Knockhill's also
You can't. So that's why it's a demolition derby.
yeah.
You make room.
It's a war of attrition, basically.
No, genuinely.
So there's no room now, but if this guy's in the kitty litter, there is room for me.
But you can't lose your front splitter. If you lose it, you are so screwed. And they're like
you
these
don't have to
feeble
turn in.
little things. You don't have any front end. And there's also, I don't think many people know this, but I mean, Porsche Cup, there's not a huge amount of error that you can see.
Yeah.
You follow someone, oh my gosh, you feel like you're in Formula One.
there
You
is
can't
actually
turn.
quite a bit of error.
Massive wash.
Okay.
Massive wash.
Crazy.
So it's
So here's
Interesting
famous
facts.
quotes from Senna and now from Andrew Rackstraw. If you no longer make a gap, you are no longer a racing driver.
I know. But I think you need to change
And
the
one
word
of these
make.
days, he can say that with a Portuguese accent.
a
Just like
Mexican
Senna.
accent.
You can just start doing Italian now.
A Brazilian accent, not a Portuguese.
What is the track that's like there's this one with like it also reminds me of a little bit of like a mini Nürburgring, and there's this one corner where the bikes actually get like
Alton Park.
Alton, do you do that in Porsche as well?
No, we haven't
But
for
too
the
narrow.
last 2 years. They have.
Have
But
they in
for
the
last
past?
2 years that I've raced it, and we're not doing it again this year.
Because it's narrow, eh? It's like a very narrow, but it's, a cool.
also weird.
Yeah.
And then what's the other well-known one?
I raced in Formula 4 and I took out someone properly.
Is it?
Properly going into the last corner.
Do you guys you do Brands Hatch, don't you?
We do.
Brands
Yeah.
are just like it.
Because that
Insane circuit.
track is mad.
coming down
I've been
the
around
hill
there
and-
once. The elevation change on that
It
first
just gets you sucked like you're in a roller coaster, like your guts almost come out.
you still
hectic.
feel like you're up here and the car's just
Yeah, no.
Gone.
And you always feel like you're going far too fast to actually not go in the gravel. Because that's the other thing. Gravel overseas actually stops you and you can't go anywhere. South Africa, you can go out and drive it like it's a road.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, you go so fast, so much faster than you think you can, because when it sucks you, it just grips.
Yeah.
there's tons
Very
of grip
weird
down in
feeling.
the hole.
Yeah,
though.
it's so weird.
But yeah, it's I
Mega
love
circuit.
Brands Hatch.
Mega. Especially the
very,
back
very
section as well.
Yeah.
It's so risky.
because there's
So
some
risky.
really nice high speed work going
Lovely.
through there. It's lekker.
Did you drive a S2000 there with a subwoofer?
No,
Is
I
that what
didn't.
you drove there?
No.
Oh, S2000, that's cool.
I had
So by the
two.
way, so let's take one quick break from racing, right? So tell us, what was your first car?
Hopefully my dad doesn't listen to this, because
Oh, your dad's so gonna listen to this. Your dad subscribed to this, bro. I mean,
Isn't everyone? I thought everyone was.
Andrew's like, oh shit, I said a lot of stuff I shouldn't have.
so
It's cool. I'll send you an edit before.
no. So my first car was, well, my problem was, the kids in my family. So I have 2 sisters, know nothing about motor racing. They've learned a lot because they're passionate about my racing, but they don't like cars. They don't love cars. It was a manual S40 that we all learned to drive. Unfortunately, Volvo.
nice.
Unfortunately for me, I was the 3rd child to get that car from 2 girls.
Stuffed.
So how much of it was actually
stuff?
left?
Not a lot. But the good thing about that,
I'm not sexist. I'm just saying that.
He's like, was it stopped?
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not being sexist. I'm just saying, like, two
No, it is. I
learner
will say
drivers
it
have gone
because-
through a car.
I mean,
There's
yeah,
also
nothing.
exactly.
remember they don't know how to do what's a clutch.
Yeah, exactly,
So it's
yeah.
like my sister actually jumped out of the car in the middle of an intersection because she just couldn't get the car and left the car. So this is kind of the level we're talking about. Love them to bits, but driving is not. They're much better now.
So your sister's going to listen to the podcast.
But so I got it because dog rings weren't the greatest. I could get away with absolute murder. So this is where I learned how to heel and toe lovely. I think the gearbox, if you open it up, it would have looked like a disco ball. But changing without gears was brilliant. My friend Reese Ullerman,
Yeah, we know
he had
Reese.
a Mini Cooper S, which we used to. We were
Yes.
both in Stellenbosch, and we used to haul it down the highway at night. I think one day he was actually pushing me down the
In Mexico.
like 220. I don't know if I can say that.
In Mexico.
To the-
Mexico.
In Mexico.
in
In
Mexico,
Mexico. On the what's that road in Germany? I was actually
Autobahn. On
The Mexican
Autobahn.
Autobahn.
just as a disclaimer.
You think it was Mexico because the people were speaking Mexican.
I don't think this is ever going to die.
All the road signs were in Mexican as well.
It's El Stellenboscho. You know?
Stellenbosch.
I'll Stellenbosch.
But so that was my first, which I absolutely loved because you could ring the hell out of it. It just wouldn't die. The power, I mean, it had no power, but I loved it. Front wheel drive, so obviously I could do mad
Yes.
burnouts. Poor Paulie's going to find out. I don't know whoever owns this S40. I'm so sorry. But then the next car that I had was a Nissan 370Z.
Nice.
Absolutely loved it. So
Quite a
nice.
step up, eh?
Yeah, also manual and
Very quiet car.
yeah,
civilized
I would like to say it was. I mean, we weren't going to do a lot to it, but then me and my dad fell in love with this Nissan, and it's like a cult. My other friend Sabri, he had a Subaru at the time, so obviously we were like, that made us instantly brothers.
JDM.
JDM vibes. Yeah.
JDM
That's
for
it.
life.
So then I started with some body work, but it was so quiet. I mean, I couldn't even hear the engine, and because I was deafened from racing cars my whole life, I needed just something to stimulate me. So then I think, got the back box out. Oh, that sounds very nice. That sounds better. I think the next mod was we cut out the entire exhaust and just put one massive, two pipes from the engine to the exhaust.
Straight pipe.
Straight pipe.
Just straight. The loudest thing. All my friends will know me by this car because I was in Stellenbosch. Anyone who knows Stellenbosch, academia.
Yes.
I used to stay in academia.
Just an academia.
With this straight piped Nissan 370Z. You can imagine when I had to go to a race in the morning or airport at 5:30.
Oh, you woke up everyone.
Starting this car, cold start.
Cold start, yeah.
All the buildings just surrounded by I was hated. Absolutely hated. But I left so quickly, I don't think anyone saw me. But I still meet people today and they would say, oh, you're that person with that seriously loud car from academia.
Yes. No.
That's the thing, like with the Nissans, like I realized I took out I didn't take out the previous owner, actually did it up. Decatted, but I left the back box in, so it's
Much
just
smarter.
loud enough, but not sort of VQ trumpet. Because
That
that's like,
VQ sounds so much better. I would have had a 350 if I could have found one in a better interior condition. That's the only reason I went 370.
yeah, the thing is you don't these days, unfortunately.
You
also.
don't. That's it.
there's
So when
so
you find
few.
it, they're like
They're all
empty.
molested.
Yeah.
Which is what I did to my car. Straight pipe body work.
Did you ever track it? Did you go on the track with it?
I did. So interesting about these cars.
Yeah.
I went around the track again with Reese. So stupid. He was in Rosie. Do you know Rosie? His
Wasn't that
Oh
the
yeah, he
McGann
names
race?
all his cars.
no, he had him again. He sold it because
sold
the
them again.
clutch was too hard, which is just an
No.
absolutely pathetic.
But did he not? I remember back then. I mean, he was we were discussing it on the group. That car not give him a bunch of other problems as well. The McGann.
I don't know. I loved the car. I loved it.
Something
I
like
think
Great
it was-
track course.
Yeah,
as well.
no. To be fair, but anyway, he came in his little Porsche, and
What Porsche?
we tracked it. I'm trying to think what Rosie was. It was so many years ago.
The Boxster?
No, it wasn't a Boxster. We'll
Like an
put a
old
photo
car.
up here.
The old car.
Anything, I don't know. We'll put a photo up here. but she was named Rosie. My car was named Samantha because she was hella curvy. Like on the back, it was just beautiful.
Sammy baby for sure.
It was fun. So we tracked it. So underwhelming. I don't know why I thought of doing it because I just destroyed pads, destroyed tires, just trying to beat Reese. But I got to about 3/4 of a tank of fuel and it
Surged.
started surging. And this was a known problem. So every about 5-6 laps, I would have to go
Full tank.
back to the petrol station, fill up, then
Fill it
come
up
to
again.
about 5 laps, go back.
Not really made for track days.
No. And it was so heavy. Gosh, they're heavy. You can feel the weight. You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So I told myself I won't track day the car I have now.
What do
Yeah.
you have now?
A BMW 135.
With a lot of molesting.
Modifications.
No, shit, this one's nice. My dad spec'd this one, so I was
Quite
more the
standard and underpowered.
Yeah.
It doesn't make like 300 kilowatt or anything like
I
that.
noticed a certain name on the exhaust, you know, so it's got like a nice.
What's
It starts with A, Akrapovic.
Well, no,
It's got-
that was a molesting story because wait, what's the place called? Jinjari.
Oh, is it a
Janjira.
Janjira. My favorite shop in this entire world. So I went there, spent hours. Anyway, I
Andrew
saw these
Rackstraw was a
things-
fan of Janjira. You heard it
Is
here
that where the
first.
side mirrors are from as well?
No,
No, okay, that's all right.
don't
Okay.
insult my side.
Those original M3, like, whoa.
No, I literally was someone in their backyard.
Not Janjira, but the
He even had
province.
to cut away. Anyway, we won't talk about that. Just my lovely Akrapovic. I will say that so wrong, but I don't
No,
know.
that's actually correct.
Is it correct?
Akrapovic, yeah.
Akrapovic.
Everyone says something different.
No, that's correct.
Okay, good.
Or just Accra. We
So
just
those.
I know that monkey, Chris Harris, he calls it a Krapovich.
That's okay. My dad says the same. But so I saw those and I fell in love instantly. I persuaded my dad as well. He was in a meeting and I just kept bombarding him with phone calls till he said yes. But he also fell in love. It's just the tips.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't fit my piping. The actual, what happened?
No, he's making like inappropriate jokes. Just
Don't get us cancelled again. But it didn't fit the actual exhaust. So we had to mold it to the. So that was, if you look underneath, it really is a.
No, it's perfect and it is
I
for
was going to
sale.
say, because
It's-
No, not yet. Not yet. No, God.
Likely used by elderly owner.
And this one's is Cindy.
Cindy,
Oh,
why?
okay.
Because Cindy, I think, if you think of a Cindy, you think of this like exotic. So it's a soft top.
Okay.
But so it's like
Topless.
It's nice. No, not yet. But
Okay.
it's like this lovely.
Cindy's
just
not yet
like,
topless.
Little girl, just little.
No!
Let's rewind. Start again. Let's start fresh.
we'll say petite. Let's say petite.
Yeah, let's just start fresh.
Beautiful.
Petite.
I don't know what Mexican, because we always are
Yes,
Mexican.
Mexican.
Girl walking around, but also at night she just transforms
Into a lady of the
stripper
night.
because. Well, Cindy, I mean, come on. I mean, that's a stripper name, but because it has a stage 2, it has pops and bangs, which
What is
are
a stage 2, by
What is
the
a
way?
stage 2?
Yeah.
Can
We
you
were
tell
just-
us what a stage
Yeah.
2 is?
We
What
were
is a
debating it the
stage
other
two?
day.
What does stage 2 mean?
to me, or
No, just in general.
What is a stage 2?
Tell us
I've
what
never-
it means to
I've,
you,
like-
because we're trying to get an objective answer.
If I go upstairs right now and I open the bonnet, can you show me the stage?
no.
What makes it a
background,
stage 2?
Some background on it. Our last episode, we talked about modifications. So we're saying like we can't figure out
He
because
knows.
people always
Everyone listens to the podcast.
stage 1, stage 2.
I mean, I listen to it, guys.
Let me just remind you of it, basically.
Yeah.
Because we were
To
talking about
reiterate.
like people talk about stage 1. To be fair, when I got my car, right, I also, the guy said it's got a chip on, which by the way, before I competed with it at Samola, Andrew from Gap Motorsport, I was like, what is this little thing lying here? And it was literally just a fooler that was on the
Oh, right.
and that's what I thought, 25-year-old Neil, when I bought
Was
the
the
car,
chip.
I had a stage 1 350Z. I was like, I also like, so we were debating what the hell does it actually mean when you say something stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? Or, I mean, I guess it varies, but
So
what
I
does this
think
mean
you
in
must
BMW
remember
language?
When you BMW have made it so easy to tune, and me and my dad have fallen out in love with BMWs. We never were fans, but this has made us kids. But so you must remember, if you start tuning a car, so these are just little things like MHD does a tune. So it's literally a thing you buy that you plug into your car's computer, and on your phone you can just set. It's literally stage 1, stage 2, stage 2.
Is it that thing
So it's all software.
It's all software, but you must remember, if your car's NA, which has no turbo, you're not going to make a lot of power. So like with my stage 2, I'm sure some of the timing change. It's all very generic. So this stage 2, it will work for they name the list of all the cars it will work with. So it's all very, I don't think it's going to maximize if you're trying to make the most horsepower, but it went from, but the figures will be up here. This is perfect, actually. I love just pointing. It's nonsense there.
For Spotify, sorry.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that.
We'll do all media videos for Andrew in
But-
future.
but-
If you can't think of anything, it's like, just check out.
He will voice over it, don't
I
worry.
was about to say, you can voice over. So, no, but what was I talking about?
The power
2.
figures.
Yeah, and stage
So I think it just must advance the timing and probably just up the boost of the.
So, but it's still
remember
just,
they
it's
all
a
run-
software. You're saying
It's just software.
No, but that doesn't
So
make
stage
sense.
2 is
what's
not
really-
software.
Because
it is.
so then stage 1 is just software as well.
Oh,
Stage 2 is just software.
I see. No, so
So
stage
that's
1.
stage 2
Yeah, yeah.
software. The
So
question is,
the
if a car is stage
Sabri, you must get Sabri on here to discuss this. So he explained it to me. I wasn't listening because all I was hearing was my car making more horsepower. But
an important bit.
so stage 1 you can do to any car. Just straight from with your
Software.
cat, which is just software. Stage 2, because I think there's a lot more pressure, or I'm gonna sound
turning
like a
everything
dog,
up
you're
more?
turning everything up. I think we had to take the cat out,
downpipe. Yeah.
but we'd had already because it was
Yeah.
too quiet. And I think you can also add in a cold air intake. We didn't. We just put an intercooler. So that's what we did to get to stage 2. And I mean, it wasn't that hard. But I mean, so like T-Rocks, those Volkswagen T-Rocks, lots of them actually go and get a gearbox tune, which is just to
ECU
make
tune.
to make it more drivable. So that's what I told my
But
dad.
that's got nothing to do with the stages, though. The
So
gearbox is different, separate.
Yeah.
But
You get
also,
stages
depending
and
on
gearboxes as
You
well.
do.
depending on which tuner you go to or which software package you download, a stage 1 and a stage 2 is going to be 2 different things. It's not like
They
it's
will
a set
all make
thing.
different horsepower.
It's
I
So
think
my
it's per
understanding-
it's per tuner basically. It's packages that they
Yes.
create.
But my understanding is that stage 1 is generally supposed to be something. It's software that you can add without having to do any modifications to
Yes.
the car.
Agreed.
Where
Whereas
was this knowledge in the previous episode?
So my definition of
He's been
stage 1
Googling
is
since
different.
last week.
For me, stage 1 for me would be breathing mods and a tune. For me, in my mind, that's like stage 1. So stuff that you can do it. I mean, like piggyback and you put
cone
a
filter and a-
cone
and a
filter
map.
and a bit of a map. Stage 2 is then like downpipe, more tuning to make that work.
so is this Neil's Z
This is-
tuning?
This is what 25-year-old did when I was on the forums, bro. We were trying to figure out when I introduced myself on the Z forum. Hey, I'm Neil. I've got a DE350Z stage 1, which is
Longest 350
which is actually
hashtag.
BS because there isn't. It's like I got the chip on that was shorted out on the body at some stage, So no.
that's
Not
the
the fact.
stage. It's some stage when it was
The-
short.
At some stage, it's sorted out. Basically,
The Supra at its current stage is like stage 1 million because it's got basically nothing on it. It's just
Yeah.
dumping. It's got no interior. It's got nothing.
Yeah.
It's open bloody
Open box.
turbo essentially. Just going.
That is so cool. That's my next mod.
It sounds so good.
So what's the reliability
I'll
like
flip.
of the BM? Sorry, Nico.
Oh, lovely.
Cindy being
Just
behaving.
don't. Cindy is the most perfect. Wow, I have my
Reliable.
girlfriend upstairs. My girlfriend's lovely, but Cindy is just lovely. She never
Doesn't
argues.
nag.
But I had a horrible story. 3 days ago. So if we had done this interview 3 days ago, I wouldn't have been laughing because it was at night and I was driving from Hout Bay, and as South Africans, any overseas listeners, a pothole is something in our road that is just
Evil.
Evil. And it literally comes out of
It's a
absolutely
hole
nowhere.
in the road
no,
that
did
could
you
screw
drive
up your
into-
car properly.
This is what happened. So I hit it at an enormous, not speed. I don't know where I was going with that, actually.
At an enormously legal speed.
Legal.
Yes, because
legal
obviously
speed.
with a pothole, if you're going faster, it doesn't hurt your car.
Exactly, because you just
says-
float over it.
yes,
So I was going
exactly.
so slow.
So-
Yeah.
I was going
Yes.
so
It
slow.
was going too slow for the
So you
bottle.
hit it
As
with
I hit it-
enormous force.
A force.
Yes,
Force.
because
Down.
you were going too slow.
Exactly. So it hit it, and then all of a sudden I heard shh.
Oh.
Oh,
So I had a
tire.
puncture, which was brutal.
But was it fine? Otherwise, like not rim damage at least.
No. Cindy's hardcore. Cindy's like a little boer. Like they just keep going. But I didn't have a spare tire. Thought I had to leave Cindy
But it's a
there,
BMW,
There's
they don't
there's
have
no
spare
space for a
because
spare
it
tire.
was a run flat.
Yeah.
So, they
So did you run it flat?
idea. So slow. Shame I had to get Ella. Ella was enormously embarrassed. She has an Audi A1. Which, can we get onto this actually
Yes.
if we have enough knowledge?
Yes.
I wish I could call her. I actually must call her down.
Yeah.
But she has an Audi A1. And she put S-line stickers, which I think is so cool, on her Audi A1. But now what makes an A1 S-line?
I would assume it's like a specific package, right?
Is it-
you
is
get
it a
with, like
specific
So if
trim
you
package?
have that package, which is the suspension, LED headlights, I think the interior. If you have that, you have an S-line, correct? So you
Yes.
can put the badges on.
I think it's fine. I would say
100%.
maybe the previous owner probably wanted it. I know some
Maybe they
cars had
debadged it.
But
Yeah,
you got an
so-
option normally. I know you
Oh,
had it
to have the
previously when you
badge on
can
or
tick
not.
it, and they said like, don't want the badges on.
Exactly.
Ah.
Probably.
But this is what she said. She didn't want it on because she said, I don't want to look like you with your fake M car.
Oh, shit.
Imagine. Took me
wow.
a week to get out my shell again, but then I was fine when I drove Cindy and I just went down that long.
The big BMW tester. Do you have the Aquafresh stripes on the front?
I don't.
That's good. That's
good.
fine.
So there's no samurai sword in the boot or anything like that.
Nothing.
You've seen that. You remember that video? Like that was training
Remember
like
the
the guys
samurai,
fighting
yeah.
of
Yeah.
the
I know
samurai sword.
exactly what you're talking about.
The Kailami is
the
taken.
German-
Embarrassingly, I want to get,
The stripes on it.
Don't do
but
it,
I
man.
won't now.
Don't
I'm
do
a
it, man.
huge. I'm a, like me and Nico probably are the biggest BM between. Like
Yeah.
I know you've owned BM.
I love BMWs. I don't like new BMWs.
Yeah, I
think
don't like the
they've lost
brand new
the
ones
plot.
are ugly.
I do
I
like the
actually
new
like
ones.
them.
Yeah, I like
saw
the new
a
ones
new.
as well.
I saw in gardens like this week an
Ew,
M3
brother,
touring,
ew.
a new M3 touring.
Oh,
The touring
yeah,
is
but
cool.
that
But
is
that's, I think,
flipping-
very
The touring is
different,
touring is cool if you turn it around and look at its arse.
And
As
you-
long as you don't look at the front.
I know we've gone out about
Please, can
like.
we just cut that,
Yes,
actually,
you
and just
need
put
to.
it out of context?
I actually like the front. I like
think-
the front.
I
Like,
also
I
like
think
the
as
I
a,
didn't call it Cindy.
as a driver, I think the BMW that I would aspire to most at the moment is probably an M2. And the new M2
Ugly.
just catastrophically
No, it's
ugly.
not.
It's not that bad
It's
for me
not.
anymore. I think from the side, the 2 Series from the side,
No,
like
but if
that
you
side
compare it-
profile,
if you
is
compare
one
it
of the
to the
nicest
old
coupe
one-
shapes.
If you compare it
Like-
to the previous one that it replaces,
I
that
hear
was
you.
a handsome
Previous
looking
one
car.
was a beautiful
The
car.
new one looks like it's been crashed into a wall.
No.
And
I
then
hear you.
redrawn by a
I hear you,
4-year-old.
but new M2 in black, like for me,
yes.
just
The
it
only
just
reason
ticks
it
so
looks
Or
many
the
okay in
boxes.
purple. I
black.
love the
it
purple.
only
Yes.
looks good in black because you can't see
the
what it
lines.
looks like.
I was
Because
about to
it
say,
doesn't-
Listen
I
here.
don't know about black. Black always takes away the curves of most
But that's
cars.
the why
That's
the
probably
M2 looks
like
better.
why
Because you
I
can't see the
like
lines.
No,
But I quite like it. I mean,
Like, I like
would
it in
like-
purple.
I agree with you that it looks good in black in the dark at 800 meters.
Quentin, what car do you drive? And what color is it? And what color is the
drive-
leap on it?
I drive a golden Jaguar.
Oh, Jewish racing gold.
Jewish Racing Gold Jaguar station wagon designed by Ian Callum, I will have you know.
With a golden
He's the
leap.
guy from Lord of the Rings, or who's the?
No, he's the guy who designed the DB9. You know, that ugly car that
He
no
was
one
drunk
likes.
though when designing that one.
the DB9.
No, not the DB9.
He's lent some violence from his girlfriend.
Right, well, before this ends in violence,
We're just getting loosened up.
No,
now.
we
What
just
is
getting
it?
started. You know?
Getting into
so
it.
let's I think let's end off with race one, keep one, crush one.
Oh, these are horrible. These are horrible.
And we're doing it with our cars.
I think I'm going to pick from our cars. And I don't think I'm going to put my car in it even because it's just
Crashed.
it's just crushed already.
So what do we do? Do each of us list our cars?
No. I think I'm gonna just wing through here because I think we've got a 350Z Roadster, we've got a 4C, we have
No, but this makes it too easy. You have to make it harder.
We've got a Rapster.
we have an Alpha Spider.
We can throw my scooter in if you want, like, make it really hard. Drop a knee, disappear, or like.
It's got a Rapster.
Eh,
As hard as a diamond in a snowstorm.
What are you throwing in for yourself, though?
no, but there's only 3 options:
Oh, okay. So you've got.
race one, own one, and crush
But
one.
I mean, come on, guys.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do a different one. From all the cars that you've raced, right?
Ooh.
All the cars that you've raced. Race one.
You can exclude the Porsche Cup from that.
Yeah. You can
discussion,
excluding
Just
what you're
for-
busy with now. We will assume that is by far your most favorite, and you're going to make a hell of a success out of it.
Yeah.
We
Porsche
all
Cup
know
is the
that.
most brilliant,
But
amazing
from
car
your-
ever to race.
Yes.
But all the other cars before that.
Everything before that. What do we say? Race one, own one, crush one,
Yeah.
wreck one.
So essentially, this came from.
word.
Let's put it in the same context as Samola. What do you think?
Yeah.
So essentially, this is in the context of Samola. So what we did is we took the top trump cards, and we asked people to pull 3 cards and race one up the hill, crush one,
Which we
and
can do
own
here
one
as well.
as a day. Well,
Crash one up the hill.
No. So crush meaning like you don't care for it. I wouldn't
chuck
mind
it
if
away.
you
You're
chuck
chucking
it
it
away.
away.
Like
Yeah.
So let's put it in the context of Somalia. You're right.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you ever wanted to, you can own one. You have to race the one, and you have to one that you don't.
So all the cars you've ever raced, except for your Porsche.
Except for the Porsches excluded. What you're currently doing.
So one is kind
Crash
of a bad
one.
experience. So one is kind
crush,
of a
like just
crush it. You
don't
just-
care about it.
get rid of it.
Wouldn't care about it if I ever have to drive it again.
Probably one of
Okay,
the worst cars or the not good cars that you've driven. Really, like I wouldn't mind if I don't have to drive that again
Oh.
as a race car.
No, because I love driving everything because they're all so
Okay.
different. But we'll start.
You've named them, so that's a
Can't
problem.
start. Named what?
You've probably named all of the cars as well, so now you can't crush
Yeah.
one. It's like it's good. You're a car guy. You're like us. We get emotionally attached.
Like
It's fine.
Cindy's so good when the sun
Bro,
goes
don't
down.
worry.
You know.
I wrote off my cart end of last year. I can't chuck away the
Oh,
plastic.
100% I'm crashing my cart. That's honestly
I'm the one like I'm the one that's like that. I don't want to like get rid of my plastics of my first cart because it's so freaking sentimental. Okay,
Claudio knows karting is a love-hate, but I'll keep it to carts because karting would.
you don't get. That's normal. That's
So
they're expendable.
you
They're
can chuck your
expendable.
cart away. That's fine. You
So
can
no
throw your.
Porsche
So I'm
Cup.
weird, basically.
That
That's
is
the.
So I think the first what I would race is. Oh no! My route comes from single-seaters. I love single-seaters.
Yeah.
Those Formula Fords are insanely fun. If you ever have a chance, you have to, I don't know, watch a video or get yourself in it. I am actually going to say I would race it.
Okay.
Just because
Nice.
H-pattern gearbox, manual, no rev limiter,
Got you, man.
no power, but just always on the edge. That is cool. Drive one Audi R8 GT3, the race car, fully
Yes.
spec race car, just because I think cruising
Yeah.
around Lindadno in that thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
So cool.
You would need to speak to the homeowners association about some of these speed bumps, though.
You would get stuck.
You may have to dodge
You'd get
JP
beached.
Smith with that thing as
And
well.
I would never get past him.
Yeah.
But and then what I would crash, not because I don't like it, just because I think I've changed so much, and I look back at that Formula Ford 1600. I won the championship. I won the most races ever in the history, most pole position, most fastest laps, most lap records in that series in 1 year. But because I look back at it and I still see how just young and naive I was, I think I would crash that car just because I think I've grown so much from
Okay.
the person I used to be then. Not because I don't
okay.
like the car. I
Yeah.
love the car.
Okay.
But those are my 3.
That's
think.
cool, man.
That was hard. That was an impossible question.
So
You answered it really well.
Our
next
cars
one.
would have been easier because mine would have been wrecked, definitely.
So
yours would have been raced and yours would have been owned.
a more relatable question is for most listeners out there. So, what is the best road car that you've driven?
Oh, so I've
Best road car on the road, best road car on the track.
I'm just fishing.
Andre's just trying to fish away. He just wants you to say
Wait,
four
no, wait. Best road car on the road, best road car on the track, and then worst car that you've driven.
Excluding the Alpha
I
4C.
wish I could remember the name of it.
Nah, it's good. Let's figure.
Best road car on the track has always. When I work in England, I work for the supercar company, so we always driving
that's cool.
something different. Porsches have always been the best handling.
Yeah.
Always. I love driver training in them. I love driving them around tracks because they're so well designed. The Germans do them well. However, and I said this probably how many years ago was it? 3 years. My favorite car that I've driven on the track was the Alfa Romeo 4C. And I think I've hit the nail on the head because it reminds me of the Formula Ford. Just of how basic it is. No power set. It's just literally you and a machine.
It's a
that's
chassis.
why
I just want to clarify here.
Not in
to-
terms of time,
just
just
to
not
clarify
fastest.
and bring down the size of Andre's ego here. You like it because of how shit it is.
No. I mean,
No, get your facts straight. He likes it because of how basic and out of control it is.
but it's also just you and the machine. There's no electronics. I mean, oh my word. The worst car I've driven on the track, Corvette C7.
Is it?
Is it?
The
Interesting.
most horrible thing I've ever driven.
Why? Just balance and-
maybe it was the tires they were using in England, but I was driver training in it. And if you go too fast into a corner, it breaks for you.
Oh, no.
So, you got
So
like
it starts
ice
understeering.
mode,
Oh, no.
basically, they call it.
Literally.
No,
but it
that's-
doesn't know its own potential. So that was catastrophic. Apparently the Alfa Romeo, the Corvette C8 is much better.
Okay.
But that was my worst. Worst road car I drove on the road was this tiny little... Cape Town is the windiest city on this planet. Now, when you have these small... I don't know what car was in it. Brought my car... Probably Samantha, my Nissan broke, and I had to get a car from the company. But they gave me this shitty little box, is what they gave me, with just plastic wheels.
Plastic wheels.
Anyway, I was driving
Fisher
down the
Price car.
highway, and I literally was about to get blown over. But it was this tiny little thing, like those...
It was
You know those red robins?
yeah, Reliant Robins.
Reliant Robins. So cool.
It was one of those
They're
with four
all
wheels.
In England, one of
Yeah.
those with 4 wheels. I thought I was going to tip. I wish I could remember the name, but I don't because it's blocked out of my mind.
Well, it wasn't in Cape Town. It was somewhere.
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town, yeah.
Horrible
The rental
things.
car.
Horrible things.
Was it
But-
a Renault Quid or something of the sort?
No,
like an
it's much
i10.
worse. Much,
Like
it
a-
was, yes,
it's an i10.
that's it. It was an i10,
i10
but
or the Atos,
old,
the Atos.
old. No, i10, but it was old.
Yeah,
Super
but
old.
before the i10, they had the Hyundai Atos.
Yeah.
I called it the A to Z or the Atos.
My wife
Because it's very
and my
close.
wife and I.
I used to call it the
I'm
I went on. I went on.
It's
I
a
went
little-
on
it's a little
honeymoon.
box.
I went on honeymoon with the Atos.
No, shame. I sound so.
No, but they're not.
But
No, no,
this
no.
car
they're
was
not.
There's
No,
better
no,
cars
no,
for
no.
the money. There's so much
So
better
much
cars
better.
for the money.
Yeah.
But this is also what is
Nothing wrong with the
crazy
i10,
with
bro.
people who have like
You're kind of weird though. So
who
that's
don't
fine.
know
just like it.
cars but spend so much on a shitty little car. But they could be buying something so cool.
Yeah.
Renault Quid.
Yeah.
Renault Quid is the worst thing. I can guarantee you. Drive a Renault Quid back to a Hyundai i10.
No, I never.
And the
And
i10
you
feels
will-
like a Rolls
i10
Royce.
feels
but the new
like a
i10
Rolls
is
Royce.
nice. That's
The
it.
new, the new i10 is really. I'm still like I know in Argentina, like they have a series where it's all i10s. Like
the racing series.
there's a racing series
Yes,
with all 1,000
I see it on
1,000
montages.
cc.
But there's
Yeah,
in
there's
the
a couple
UK
of them.
as well. There's
the
the
minis.
The Citroen.
the
the
Citroens
Citroen
and
Cup
the
is-
and the Peugeots and the Toyota Aigos. They were all basically the same
1000
platform.
cc.
Oh.
And the guys from what's that YouTube channel, Project Binky?
What?
Binky.
Yeah, Project Binky. Have you not watched Project Binky?
No.
You have to
Is
go
it
and
the
watch
mini?
it.
It
sounds
the mini.
like-
Oh yeah.
It's
Never heard of Project
Obsessed
Binky.
Motorsport
It sounds like something to do
or
with
something
kids.
like that.
Throttle.
They have a Peugeot 107 that they race in that series. And that just looks like epic fun because
John
all of these
Craig-
things are
John Craig's son used to race in that for a bit.
they're like 3-cylinder, 1
do endurance
liter
stuff.
shit boxes,
They do
and
endurance
they
stuff with
race
that.
them
We need that in
with
South
minimal
Africa.
modifications.
That you have like
And
you
when
put-
you were talking earlier about bringing a series from the UK to South Africa, something like that could actually work here.
But like
Because
the Lemons race,
For South Africa,
Yes,
the
yes.
biggest barrier to entry
Money.
in
Money.
racing is money.
yeah.
And those cars are dirt cheap.
I still say what we discussed at Günther's place, a Bucky series.
We need
Yeah.
a Bucky series.
But they,
what,
that
like
was
truck racing.
Bucky.
No, but
like
like
Hilux and Rangers and whatever.
but
but like-
like most of the people there.
Entry level diesel,
Oh, right.
single cab.
with
What around the track or what?
Yeah,
Yes,
around
around
the
the
track,
track,
yeah.
bro.
around the
Not
track,
with those
but
jumps.
with
No,
no.
around
Yeah.
Killarney.
freaking
Yeah.
drop
Around-
them, drop
around
them all
Killarney,
diesels.
but you
drop
have
them
you have an
cages.
obligatory pit stop where you have to load something on the back.
Yes.
Anything you want. Bricks, banana peels,
And you have to
oil.
tie it. You have to tie it down with
Goats,
ratchet
sheep.
straps and go. This isn't going anywhere. Jump back in the car and then.
Yeah.
To be fair, that probably would bring in the most people.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
It would work.
If you get Toyota, Ford, and all these guys to
Yeah,
like
I
commit
like-
to,
I would love something like that.
or make it like double, make it like the double, because
Make
there
it the
was
single cabs. You
the
know,
single cabs.
cab, the base
Base
specs,
models.
You know that you get.
like in Australia when they did with the
Workhorses.
Ute. They've got
Yeah.
the Ute
Exactly.
Championship in Australia.
Yeah.
Put some, even like put like a standard V8 in it. You know, like a crate motor. Let them all put crate motors in it. Make them a hell of a lot of noise, oversteery.
Yeah.
Fun.
People like that stuff.
Yeah.
But listen, guys, we have now fixed motorsport in South Africa. Obviously, I mean, we kind of
We fixed a
sorted
lot
out.
of things.
We
eh?
fixed a lot of
We
things.
have we fixed Cindy, even though it
I
seems
fixed
like
Cindy. No one here was helping me when I had to change
Andrew
the tire.
fixed Cindy after he molested her, and
Oh wait! Whoa, whoa,
He just molested the tip.
I think staying classy is not even an option at this point. But I mean,
shouldn't
that
have
is
given you
how
guys
we
some- yeah.
traditionally end these things. Even my phone is going bananas at me. But Andrew, huge thanks for agreeing to do this. I know that your time is kind of limited whilst you're here. So
I mean,
yeah.
you guys made the paycheck. Just I couldn't turn it down. So
Yeah,
thank
you
you.
know. Thank you to our sponsors.
No, it has been amazing fun. I'm glad we were able to do it before I was going to shoot off. So thank you to all
man.
of you guys.
Thanks.
And we'll catch up with you again when you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Good
We're
luck
all
up
rooting
there,
for you.
And yeah, if you ever want like induction noise stickers for the side of your car, just let me know. We'll hook
Perfect.
And we will stay classy,
Classy San Diego.
So what's that in Mexican?
He's actually trying. When he's actually see, he is trying so hard.
That hamster is running.
I'll stay classy, San Diego.
So basically he's saying stay in Classy San Diego with a fake Italian accent.
That was brilliant.
That is a alternative speaking Mexican.